So, it's really a pleasure to be here today, and I would like first to thank you all for being with us. And I would like to thank our colleagues from the German Ministry, Khalil, for helping us organize this meeting here and for combining our gathering with around I4MS with the autonomics event yesterday. As you'll see, this connection between what we do at EU level, what's done in the member state, is an important part of our initiative and our strategy for the future. It's a key pillar of our strategies for supporting industry and supporting academic community in Europe and raising the level of competitiveness of our industry. So I'll start with this, and as you'll see as well, the I4MS initiative is also, I would say, an important part of our strategy. And that initiative that we started in 2013 and 12 under FP7, 2013 under FP7, we will build on it. We'll build on its achievement for our future activities, similar future activities that we think are important. And therefore, your input, your contribution will be very important for us to see how we refine our actions and to also see whether we should upscale them, how to upscale them, etc. So this is where I am. I mean, it's a nice place. I just want to say I was raised in a Catholic brothers school, and so Wednesday and Friday were the mass at 8 o'clock. So we started at 8:30. It was familiar for me, and what was interesting is that time the guidelines between the pupils was not to sit down in front, because otherwise you will have to serve the mass, and you should not come too late, otherwise you have to read the Bible and the Evangel. So these were the guidelines. So I hope that some of you have followed this. They are in the back. Good. That's tell you. So I'm familiar with this. Good. So, what I'll be talking to you about is how we see digital technologies transforming our industry, and what are the challenges that we see coming from you, from your input, and how we try to address these challenges with our initiatives at EU level, but also in collaboration with industry, in partnerships, etc. This is what I'll be doing. I'll start with a general approach. So what is the strategy, as I said? We see that digital technologies, I mean, what I'll be saying here will not be a surprise to you. We see digital technologies as contributing both to innovation in products and innovation in processes. I know that when we talk about factories of the future, we tend to focus on the innovation in processes, but our contribution to innovation in products is very important, as you know. And of course, digital technologies, that contribution both to innovation in products, innovation in processes, will grow, and that applies from the earliest stage of design of products and processes for simulation, visualization, down to shop floor control, and beyond all what follows in terms of product life cycle, what follows in terms of customer relationship. ICT contributes to all this chain. And that contribution will grow in the future. We see that. And when it comes to innovation in products, I mean, we're able today to quantify how much value ICT brings into all types of products and services. Say, for example, the value in automotive. I mean, it starts from 25%, but industry tells us today that we're moving into 50, 60% of the value within a vehicle brought in by digital technologies. The same thing in avionics, in medical equipment, all types of products and services, consumer electronics, of course, etc. Now, and I've been looking, it's interesting, at the research and development, so the share of ICT research and development within the total research and development investments of non-ICT industries. And they are really impressive. 50% of the R&D in automotive is on ICT. In some areas like medical, 75% is on ICT. So that means that that contribution will continue to increase in the future. And we see that when it comes to, this is innovation in products, innovation in processes, we see the impact of ICT also, as I said, throughout the whole process of production, from modeling, simulation, analytics, the importance of big data today in extracting from data information is important for the design, but also for the process. Cyber-physical systems, all the control, automation, part of the robotics and autonomous systems within, as examples, and all the aspects related to the basic technologies, laser-based manufacturing, additive manufacturing, 3D printing today, but also all the sensing that are related to that. I mean, so the contribution is very important, and it is by mastering ICT that we'll be able to bring additional, very significant competitive advantage to our industry across the development cycle of products and across the production processes. So, and what we see in the future, and it's really part of the German initiative on Industry 4.0, is that this connection between smartness in the product and smartness in the processes is even greater. So it's an integrated, I would say, innovation that is brought by ICT, or digital innovation brought by ICT. So that combination of innovation of digital technologies that bring into the product and the process is even more integrated in the future. And as we, every product smarter, every process smarter, and that connection is increasingly important. So smarter and connected industry, product innovation meets process innovation, I think. And so, as I said, the impact of digital technologies on manufacturing, process innovation, product innovation, and the combination of the two will not stop, because we see that with if you look at the 5 digital tracks that are guiding or driving the development of digital technologies, you could see that how they would map into the manufacturing sector as well, how they would transform our industry, and how they will also contribute to the blurring between product and the service. And we see that blurring more and more. And I think that the importance of rebringing industry into Europe and manufacturing is coming from this blurring between product and services. And in fact, if we want to create value, be it through product and service, we have absolutely to bring back industry, support the expansion of industry and production in Europe. That blurring between product and service, it means that even if we want to have more value from the services created in Europe, so more jobs, more growth, we have to have the production also in Europe. And that is coming from these 5 tracks also of development of ICT, be it big data, advanced computing power, what we're happening on cloud, HPC, what is happening on the components itself, smart system integration, sensors, lasers, or what's happening on the cyber-physical systems, smart objects, Internet of Things, and the robotics and automation system. That convergence between these 5 tracks mapped into industry going to bring a lot of innovation into the future, as we know. So, what is going to do about it? Just simple objectives to start with. We think that a main goal of EU action in this field is to bring the benefit of latest ICT developments to all industry in Europe. That's clear. What we think is that all industry in Europe could benefit from the wider uptake of latest ICT technologies, but in order to do that, we need to have a strong supply industry of IC system for manufacturing, and in order to be able to do that, you have to master the other parts of the value chain, which is a strong ICT industry for a strong economy in all sectors. So you see the logic of our intervention, from a strong ICT industry to a strong supply of ICT for manufacturing solution to a strong economy across the board. These are our objectives in few words. And how to reach that, I think that part is extremely important. You see the weight of activities like I4MS in our approach. Our approach first, work in partnerships, and our core partnership for ICT for manufacturing is the partnership that we have with EFRA under the Factories of the Future. It's a core partnership. I'll come back to that in terms of also the weight of the investment that we put in this partnership on FOF. But we also build partnerships in areas of robotic. We announced last week the launch of the robotics PPP, 700 million euros. We have also a partnership in the components side. We have partnerships in photonics. So the public-private partnerships involving the Commission, sometimes the member states, and industry and academia are a key pillar of our approach for the future. In all the areas we deal with, in the fields of components, systems, software, networking, ICT for manufacturing, we have partnerships that enable us together to define strategies, roadmaps for the development of these industries in Europe, mobilize stakeholders, engage industry, engage the academic community around these roadmaps, and engage public support to achieve very precise goals, and with key indicators of how we progress towards achieve these goals. Partnerships, extremely important. And what is important also brought by ICE 2020 now is the addressing the whole value chain from research, development, and innovation. Sorry, the whole innovation and value chain. Research, development, innovation, ICE 2020, the new instruments brought in. I have a small slide on this later. But also what is important for us is this supply-demand interaction, and interaction with the users of the technology, suppliers of technology, users of technology, and partnerships and alliances that are built across the value chain. From components, from equipments and materials, components, software, etc., up to the use of the technology. SMEs as key players, as you know, we're here for that. I4MS is an example of what we do for SMEs. What also we said is that this connection with national and regional policy is very important. We think that, you know, if we're able to leverage on the support that we have at EU level, leverage public support from the member state, from regional level, and private support, we'll be able to succeed. Otherwise, we will have limited impact with our intervention. So our intervention at EU level has to have leverage, has to be combined with other support, other policies in order to reach. And the final one is also important. We discussed this yesterday. It's to combine what we do on research, development, innovation with other policy, other regulation. The diffusion of ICT, the autonomy of ICT, the smartness that we introduce in systems are going to raise a lot of challenges and is raising a lot of challenges in security, privacy, liability, ethical issues that we need to address if we want to make sure that everyone can benefit from ICT and we take full advantage of what's happening. Now, these are the key pillars of our approach for ICT. And as you can see, every one of them is important and we try to address. What do we use as instruments to achieve that approach? Of course, the financial instruments. And I put them on purpose there. It's not only ICE 2020. ICE 2020 is important, but we count more and more on other financial instruments, like the structural funds. And for once in the history of the Union, innovation, ICT are key priorities for the structural funds use. And for once, we're looking at real means of connecting what we do in support to R&D, what is done in the structural funds for support to R&D and innovation. We have just issued a guideline that will be there on how you can combine funding, and also with national initiatives and regional initiatives, how to combine that in order to achieve very ambitious goals. But also we have, you know, support to EIB, EIF, etc. Regulatory and legislative measures, if need be. And what we use also is what we call mobilization of stakeholders, intervention and standardization. And we talked about it yesterday a lot as well. So all these instruments are at our disposal. And it's really in partnership with you, in partnership with industry, that we would like to use these instruments. So you have to tell us what would be important for you at what stage. Our investments in FOF, in factories of the future, in FP7 was around 245 million euro, or 250 million euros. We present of almost 40%. It's a joint initiative that we support with our colleagues in DG Research that bring in the other important innovation aspects, material, process, etc. So but we put 40% of the FOF, and we have 50 projects launched so far, high industrial participation, and we tackled research and development as well as innovation as we do today in I4MS. That's our participation in FOF. But in addition to our investment in FOF, I just remind you that we've put something like 480 million euros in robotics research and FP7, around 500 million. And in photonics, we have a similar amount also that has been put on research and development in these fields. If you take industrial robotics and the laser-based manufacturing or photonics application in manufacturing, altogether you have something like 600, 700 million euros spent in FP7 on ICT for manufacturing. And we have some examples, just, the type of projects that we support under ICT for manufacturing. This is one on process support to process control in the avionics field. That's one example. And from CAD down to production, so the integration across the production process. These are examples of two projects that we have in this field. And we have also project that address training. This is using gaming, interactive gaming for training in the automotive sector. These are just examples. I will not go into that in detail. You will see a lot of the examples today on what's happening in I4MS, so I will not go into that. So the future. The future. This is, you see in a snapshot how we will be supporting ICT for manufacturing. Of course, the core where the integration is happening between the various technologies into manufacturing is happening in our support to ICT and FOF, together with industry. And the following there for our roadmap, this is up to 450 million euros that we have engaged in this for the next 7 years. But in addition to that, I want to mention the others that you see on the border here, mainly the robotics PPP, Spark, and the photonics PPP Spark. And there I've done the calculation as well. If you look at how much, the photonics PPP also, if you look at the two PPPs there, the contribution to manufacturing sector is also around 650 million euros. So altogether, we will be putting more than €1 billion of investment in ICT directly supporting the manufacturing sector in 2014-20. So it's not a small amount. And we're doing that in partnership with you. And within that, we'll be supporting research and development, as you've seen in 2014-15, of course, bringing what I would call differentiating factors to industry to be able to compete on a global scale. And that applies to supply industry as well as to the user industry. And we'll be supporting innovation actions like the one we have in I4MS, but other types of innovation actions in the future. Now, the importance of I4MS is in this slide that I show here. We think that across our initiatives, what we call competence center-based innovation is extremely important for diffusion of ICT to non-tech industries, to SMEs, but also to connect suppliers with users, to connect academic community with the industry, to act as broker, but also to help us connect with regional development, to help us connect with national initiatives. I4MS is an initiative where we rely on competence centers to diffuse the technology, to help businesses get access to new technology, help businesses test new technology in facilities that are shared within these competence centers. The building capacity within these competence centers, we hope that member states, using their own support, regional support, as well as structural fund, can be used in order to build this capacity, where our support at EU level comes in to do the experiments on these facilities, on these infrastructures, on these research labs. Build our initial support is to build these experiments, to have these experiments, have these testing done with industry, and networking between these competence centers. This combination between investment that be done at national, regional level, using structural funds when needed and when possible, and money that would come from the EU level to use this capacity to network between the competence centers, we think could be a winning strategy for the future. This is what I4MS is about. Tell us if it's working. Tell us if we can build on that for the future, and tell us what are the opportunities and challenges that you see there. But we have other means. I put here just other means for supporting also industry and for supporting the bridging in terms of innovation between the lab and the fab. This is what we call the pilot lines that we've started in the components sector, but could be very interesting. And we're trying to see today whether we can do more of that in other areas. And our colleagues from EFRA here, Mauricio, Zeiko, we're trying to see whether that model that we used also in the components industry, where we supported the building of pilot lines to test products just before mass production and test the processes before mass production. And these are heavy investments that we've done together with regions, together with the member states, in order to bridge that gap between what happens in the lab and the first production capacity. These are things that we can do. It's not part of I4MS, but tell us if you think that this is something we can do for the future. We think that digital technologies can help us raise the competitiveness of all our industry. We're really supporting and I'll say endorsing initiatives happening in the member states like Industry 4.0 in Germany. We think that could be replicated across Europe, and we're working on this. We're working on this in partnership with industry. We do cover the whole value chain, innovation chain, hopefully in our actions today, and what we were proposing in 2014-20. And we think that there's a huge opportunity coming to reshore, to bring value, or I don't like reindustrialization, but bringing value from manufacturing, from production in Europe. And in order to do that, we need your support. And the instruments are there. The funding is there. We need to work in partnership to make sure that we use it in the proper way. Thank you very much.